Chapter 3. President Le Chapelier. The unrest in Paris delayed the burial of Bertrand de Amos until the Wednesday of that eventful week. During the 2 following days, the city resembled an armed camp rather than a capital. The death of a fencing master passed almost unnoticed amid the events that were shaking the nation to its foundations. Even his pupils paid little attention. Most of them did not come to the academy during the 2 days his body lay there. However, a few did come. They shared the news with others. As a result, a group of about 20 young men followed the master to Père Lachaise cemetery. André-Louis walked at their head as the chief mourner. As far as André-Louis knew, there were no relatives to notify. However, within a week of the death of Monsieur de Amos, his sister arrived from Passy to claim his inheritance. This estate was quite large. The master had been successful and had saved money. He had invested most of it in the Compagnie des Eaux and the national debt. André-Louis directed her to the lawyers and never saw her again. The death of de Amos left André-Louis with a deep sense of loneliness and sorrow. He did not care about the sudden wealth it automatically brought him. The master's sister received the money he had saved, but André-Louis inherited the source of that wealth itself. He took over the fencing school. By this time, he was so well established as an instructor that his many students expected him to take charge and run it successfully. Furthermore, fencing academies had never seen such prosperous times. In these troubled days, every man was sharpening his sword and learning how to use it. It took a couple of weeks for André-Louis to realize what had actually happened to him. He was completely exhausted. During those 2 weeks, he had been doing the work of 2 men. He would have found the task impossible if he had not come up with a clever idea. He paired off his more advanced students to fence with each other. He stood nearby to criticize, correct, and instruct them. Even so, he had to fence for about 6 hours every day. He brought his weariness from one day to the next. He was in danger of collapsing under the heavy burden of fatigue. Finally, he hired an assistant to teach the beginners, which was the hardest work. He was lucky enough to easily find one of his own students for the job. His name was Leduc. As the summer went on, the number of students kept growing. It became necessary for André-Louis to hire another assistant. This was a skilled young instructor named Galoche. André-Louis also had to rent another room on the floor above. These were busy days for André-Louis. They were more exhausting than the time he spent building up the Benet Company. Naturally, they were also days of incredible financial success. He noted with regret that Bertrand de Amos had died by bad luck right before sword fighting became so profitable. The coat of arms of the Académie du Roi still hung outside his door, even though André-Louis had no right to display it. He solved this problem in a clever way worthy of Scaramouche. He kept the shield and the original sign. The sign read,
Académie de Bertrand de Amos, Maître en fait d'armes de Académies du Roi.
Then, he simply added another line below it. It read,
Conducted by André-Louis.
He now had very little time to go outside. He learned about the revolutionary events happening around him from his students and the newspapers. The freedom of the press had created a flood of new newspapers in Paris. He heard about the fall of the Bastille. That major event felt almost like an anticlimax. It happened while Monsieur de Amos lay dead. It occurred the day before they buried him. In fact, it was the main reason his funeral had been delayed. The attack on the Bastille was inspired by the reckless charge of Prince Lambesc. That was the same charge that had killed the fencing master. The angry citizens had besieged the electors in the Hôtel de Ville. They demanded weapons to defend their lives against the foreign soldiers hired by the corrupt government. In the end, the electors agreed to give them weapons. Actually, they had no weapons to give. They simply gave the people permission to arm themselves. The electors also gave them a cockade colored red and blue, which were the colors of Paris. White was the color of the ancient standard of France. They added white to the cockade because red and blue were also the colors of the Duke of Orleans. This is how the tricolor flag was born. Additionally, a permanent committee of electors was formed to maintain public order. The empowered people worked quickly. They forged 60,000 pikes within 36 hours. By 9 o'clock on Tuesday morning, 30,000 men stood outside the Invalides. They broke in and stole about 30,000 muskets by 11 o'clock. Meanwhile, other groups had seized the arsenal and taken its gunpowder. The citizens prepared to fight back against the attack that the royal army planned to launch on the city from 7 different directions that evening. However, Paris did not wait to be attacked. The people took the initiative. Fueled by wild enthusiasm, they came up with the crazy idea of attacking the Bastille, that terrifying and threatening fortress. As you know, they actually succeeded before 5 o'clock that evening. The French guards and their cannons helped them in this task. Lambesc fled with his soldiers from the massive armed crowd that seemed to spring up from the very streets of Paris. He carried the news to Versailles. This news made the court stop and think. The people now possessed the cannons they had captured from the Bastille. They were building barricades in the streets and placing those cannons on them. The royal army had waited too long to attack. Now they had to abandon their plans. An attack would only lead to useless killing. It would also further damage the already weak reputation of the royal family. Fear made the court briefly act sensibly again. They decided to stall for time. They planned to bring Necker back once more. The 3 estates would sit together as the National Assembly, just as the people demanded. This was a complete surrender to the threat of force. Force had become the only argument that mattered. The king went alone to tell the National Assembly about this last-minute decision. His surrender brought great relief to the members of the assembly. They had been watching the terrible situation in Paris with pain and fear. The assembly's motto was,
"No force but the force of reason and argument."
They maintained this peaceful stance for 2 more years. They showed incredible patience and courage while facing constant provocation. History has not given them enough credit for this. As the king was leaving the assembly, a woman grabbed his knees. She asked the question that was on the minds of everyone in France.
"Ah, sire, are you really sincere? Are you sure they will not make you change your mind?"
A couple of days later, the king came to Paris to finish making peace and surrendering his absolute power. He came alone, guarded only by the representatives of the nation. No one asked him if he was sincere this time. The court was terrified by his journey. Weren't these rebellious Parisians the enemy? Should a king walk right into the middle of his enemies? If the king shared their fear, as his gloomy face suggested, his fear was unnecessary. 200,000 armed men were waiting for him. They had no uniforms, and they carried the strangest collection of weapons ever seen. However, they waited for him as an honor guard. Mayor Bailey met him at the city gate and handed him the keys to the city. He said,
"These are the same keys that were presented to Henri IV. He had reconquered his people. Now the people have reconquered their king."
Mayor Bailey offered the king the new tricolor cockade at the Hôtel de Ville. The cockade was the symbol of the new constitutional France. The king officially approved the creation of the Garde Bourgeoise. He also confirmed the appointments of Bailey and Lafayette. Then, he left for Versailles while his loyal people shouted,
"Vive le roi!"
Now you see the privileged class finally submitting while staring down the barrel of a cannon. If they had surrendered sooner, they could have saved oceans of blood, mostly their own blood. The nobles and the clergy came to join the National Assembly. They planned to work together on the constitution that would rebuild France. However, this reunion was a joke. It was just as fake as the Archbishop of Paris singing a hymn of praise for the fall of the Bastille. That was the most ridiculous and unbelievable event of all these strange times. The only real result for the National Assembly was that it now contained 500 or 600 enemies who wanted to block and delay its work. But this is a famous story that you can read about in detail in other books. I am only giving you the parts of it that I found in the writings of André-Louis. I am using almost his exact words. They show how his own thinking changed. He was quiet now. However, he had come to truly believe in the political ideas he had preached earlier without actually believing in them. During this time, his financial situation improved, and his legal troubles also faded away. The political changes around him changed his status. He no longer needed to hide. Who would accuse him of treason for what he had done in Brittany now? What court would dare to hang him for saying things early that everyone in France was saying today? As for the other possible charge of murder, no one cared about the death of the miserable Benet. André-Louis hoped he had killed the man, and he knew he had acted in self-defense. One nice day in early August, André-Louis took a day off from the academy. The school was running smoothly under the guidance of his assistants. He rented a carriage and drove out to Versailles. He went to the Café d'Amaury. He knew this café was the meeting place of the Club Breton. This club was the beginning of the Society of the Friends of the Constitution, which later became famous as the Jacobins. He went there to find Le Chapelier. Le Chapelier had helped start the club. He was now a very important man. He was the president of the Assembly during this crucial time when they were debating the Declaration of the Rights of Man. Le Chapelier's importance was obvious from how the waiter acted. André-Louis asked the waiter in the white apron and rolled up sleeves about the politician. The waiter instantly became very submissive. The waiter said that Monsieur Le Chapelier was upstairs with friends. He wanted to help the gentleman, but he was afraid to interrupt the meeting. André-Louis gave the waiter a silver coin to encourage him to try. Then, he sat down at a marble table near the window. He looked out over the large square surrounded by trees. The main room of the café was empty in the middle of the afternoon. The great politician came down to meet him there. Less than a year ago, Le Chapelier had let André-Louis take the lead in a tricky situation. Today, Le Chapelier was one of the most powerful leaders of the struggling nation. Meanwhile, André-Louis was just an ordinary citizen hiding in the background. Both men were thinking about this difference as they looked at each other. They each noticed how much the other had changed in just a few months. André-Louis saw that Le Chapelier was dressing better. His face also looked more refined and thoughtful. He was thinner than before. His face was pale. He looked tired as he stared at his visitor through a gold-rimmed spyglass. Le Chapelier had sharp, tired eyes. He noticed even bigger changes in André-Louis. André-Louis had been practicing sword fighting constantly for months. This gave him graceful movements and good posture. He had a strange, hard-to-describe air of dignity and authority. He looked taller because of it. He was dressed quietly, but his clothes were expensive and elegant. He wore a small sword with a silver handle. He wore it like a man who knew how to use it. Le Chapelier remembered André-Louis having stringy black hair hanging over his skinny cheeks. Now, his hair was shiny and tied neatly in the back. He almost looked like a wealthy young nobleman. However, these changes were only on the outside. They both quickly showed each other that they were still the same men inside. Le Chapelier was still a direct and blunt man from Brittany. He spoke and acted abruptly. He stood smiling for a moment. He looked surprised and happy. Then he opened his arms wide. They hugged each other. The waiter watched them with awe and quickly backed away.
André-Louis, my friend, where did you come from? I came from the bottom. I am here to get a close look at a man who has reached the top. The top? But if you had wanted to, you could be standing in my place right now. I am afraid of heights, and the air is too thin up there. Honestly, you do not look very healthy up there yourself, Isaac. You are pale. The assembly was in session all night long. That is all. These damned privileged nobles make everything difficult. They will keep doing it until we officially get rid of their special rights.
They sat down.
Abolish their rights. Are you planning to do that much? I am not surprised, though. You have always been an extremist. I plan to abolish their rights so that I can save them. I want to remove their privileges officially. If we don't, the angry people will get rid of the nobles in a much more violent way. I see. And what about the king? The king represents the nation itself. We will save both the king and the nation from the trap of noble privilege. Our new constitution will make this happen. Do you agree?
André-Louis shrugged his shoulders.
Does it matter? I am a dreamer when it comes to politics. I am not a man of action. I have been very moderate until recently. I have been more moderate than you realize. But now I am almost a Republican. I have been watching. I have noticed that this king is basically nothing. He is just a puppet who dances when someone else pulls the strings. You say this king is useless? But what other king could we have? You are not one of those people who want the Duke of Orleans to take power, are you? He has a small group of supporters. Most of them only follow him because they hate the Queen, and they know the Queen hates him. Some people have thought about making him the regent. A few want him to have even more power. Robespierre is one of them. Who?
Asked André-Louis. He had never heard the name.
Robespierre. He is a ridiculous little lawyer who represents heiress. He is a shabby, clumsy, and shy bore. He gives speeches through his nose, and nobody listens to him. He is an extreme royalist. Both the royalists and the supporters of Orleans are using him for their own plans. He is stubborn, and he demands to be heard. People might listen to him one day, but the idea that he or any of the others will ever make the Duke of Orleans into a real leader is nonsense. Orleans himself might want power, but the man has no talent for villainy. He wants to do bad things, but he cannot. Mirabeau said that.
Le Chapelier stopped talking about politics. He asked André-Louis to tell him about his own life.
You did not treat me like a friend when you wrote to me,
he complained.
You did not tell me where you were. You told me you were completely broke, but you did not give me a way to send you money. I have been worried about you, André, but looking at you now, I see I did not need to worry. You look successful and confident. Tell me all about it.
André-Louis told him the whole story honestly.
Do you know that you constantly amaze me?
Said the politician.
First you were a lawyer, then you were an actor. Now you are a swordsman. I wonder how you will end up. Probably on the gallows. Nonsense. Be serious. Why not become a powerful senator in our new France? You could have that position right now if you wanted it. That is the fastest way to get to the gallows.
Laughed André-Louis. Le Chapelier looked annoyed for a moment. I wonder if he remembered that conversation 4 years later. That was when he rode in the death cart to the guillotine at the Place de Grève.
We have 66 representatives from Brittany in the assembly. If one of them leaves, will you take his place as a substitute? I can say a good word for you. You also have a famous name in Rennes and Nantes. We could easily get you the job.
André-Louis laughed out loud.
Do you know, Isaac, that every time we meet, you try to push me into politics? I do it because you have a talent for politics. You were born to be a politician. Yes, I would be Scaramouche in real life. I have already played that role on the stage. Let that be enough. Tell me, Isaac, do you have any news about my old friend, the Marquis de La Tour d'Azyr? He is here in Versailles, curse him. He is a constant problem for the assembly. The peasants burned down his castle at La Tour d'Azyr. Unfortunately, he was not inside it when it happened. The fire did not destroy his arrogance. He dreams that when this crazy revolution is over, he will have slaves to rebuild his castle for him. So there has been trouble in Brittany?
André-Louis looked serious. He immediately thought of Gavrillac.
There has been plenty of trouble in Brittany, and everywhere else too. Are you surprised? They are delaying the political reforms while people are starving. Castles have been burning all over the country for the last 2 weeks. The peasants copied the people of Paris. They treated every castle like it was the Bastille. Order is being restored everywhere now, and things have calmed down. What about Gavrillac? Do you know what happened there? I believe everything is fine. Monsieur de Kercadia was not like the Marquis de La Tour d'Azyr. He cared about his people. It is unlikely that they would attack Gavrillac. But don't you write letters to your godfather? Under the circumstances, no. What you just told me makes it harder than ever. He must think I am one of the people who started the fires that are destroying his world. Please find out for sure if everyone at Gavrillac is safe. Let me know what you hear. I will find out immediately.
André-Louis was about to get into his carriage to return to Paris. Before he left, he asked one last question.
Do you happen to know if Monsieur de La Tour d'Azyr has gotten married?
He asked.
I do not know. That probably means he is not married. If a powerful noble like him got married, everyone would have heard about it. You are right.
André-Louis spoke casually.
Goodbye, Isaac. You must come and see me at 13 Rue du Hazard. Come soon. I will come as soon as my work allows, but they keep me chained to my desk here right now. You are a poor slave to your duty, even with your gospel of liberty. That is true, and because of my duty, I will definitely come to see you. I have a duty to Brittany, I need to make omnes omnibus one of our representatives in the National Assembly. That is one duty I hope you will ignore,
laughed André-Louis. He drove away. Chapter 4. At Meudon. Later in the week, he received a visit from Le Chapelier just before noon.
I have news for you, André. Your godfather is at Meudon. He arrived there 2 days ago. Had you heard? No. How could I hear? Why is he at Meudon?
He felt a faint excitement that he could hardly explain.
I do not know. There have been fresh disturbances in Brittany. It may be due to that. And so he has come to his brother for shelter?
Asked André-Louis.
He has come to his brother's house, yes. But he has not come to his brother. Where do you live, André? Do you never hear any news? Etienne de Gavrillac emigrated years ago. He was part of the household of Monsieur d'Artois, and he crossed the frontier with him. By now, he is no doubt in Germany with him, conspiring against France. That is what the émigrés are doing. That Austrian woman at the Tuileries will end by destroying the monarchy. Yes, yes,
said André-Louis impatiently. Politics did not interest him at all this morning.
But what about Gavrillac? Have I not told you that Gavrillac is at Meudon? He is installed in the house his brother left behind. My God, do I not speak French? Or do you not understand the language? I believe that Rabawillet, his manager, is in charge of Gavrillac. I brought you the news the moment I received it. I thought you would probably wish to go out to Meudon. Of course, I will go at once. That is, I will go as soon as I can. I cannot go today and I cannot go tomorrow. I am too busy here.
He waved a hand towards the inner room. The click of blades, the quick movement of feet, and the voice of the instructor, Le Duc, came from there.
Well, that is your own affair. You are busy. I will leave you now. Let us dine this evening at the Café de Foy. Cursain will be in the party. One moment.
André-Louis's voice stopped him at the door.
Is Mademoiselle de Circadia with her uncle? How should I know? Go and find out.
He left, and André-Louis stood there a moment deep in thought. Then he turned and went back to his pupil, the Vicomte de Villeniort. He resumed his interrupted explanation of Danet's half-counter parry. He used a small sword to illustrate the advantages of adopting this move. Afterwards, he fenced with the Vicomte, who was perhaps his most capable pupil at the time. All the while, his thoughts were on the heights of Meudon. His mind calculated the lessons he had to give that afternoon and the next day. He wondered which of these he could postpone without disrupting the academy. He touched the Vicomte 3 times in a row, paused, and pulled himself back to the present. He marveled at the precision one could gain purely through mechanical action. His wrist, arm, and knees had automatically performed their work without a single thought. Constant practice for over a year had turned them into an accurate fighting machine. André-Louis was not able to satisfy his wish until Sunday. The impatience of the waiting days had turned this wish into a deep yearning. He dressed with more than ordinary care. His head was elegantly styled by a hairdresser to the nobility. Many of these hairdressers were losing their jobs because of the heavy stream of emigration. André-Louis climbed into his hired carriage and drove out to Meudon. The house of the younger Circadia did not resemble the home of the family's head. It also did not reflect his brother's personality. His brother was a man of the soil. The younger Circadia was a man of the court and an officer in the household of the Comte d'Artois. He had built an imposing villa for himself and his family on the heights of Meudon. It sat in a miniature park. It was conveniently located halfway between Versailles and Paris, and it was easy to reach from either place. Monsieur d'Artois, the royal tennis player, had been among the very first to emigrate. He had left France immediately after the fall of the Bastille. He went with the Condés, the Comtesse, the Polignacs, and other intimate advisors to the Queen. Old Marshal de Broglie and the Prince de Lambesc went too, because they realized the people hated their very names. Monsieur d'Artois went to play tennis beyond the border. There, he and the others completed the ruin of the French monarchy, a task they had started in France. Etienne de Circadia went with him, along with several members of his household. Etienne's wife and 4 children went as well. That is how the Lord of Gavrilac came to occupy the courtier's handsome villa at Meudon. He was glad to escape from Brittany. That province was especially disturbed, and the nobles there had shown themselves to be the most stubborn in all of France. One should not suppose that he was completely happy there. He was a man with almost Spartan habits. He was used to simple food and doing things for himself. He felt a little uneasy in this luxurious home. It had soft carpets, abundant gold decorations, and an army of sleek, silent servants. The younger Circadia had left his entire staff behind. Back at Gavrilac, the lord kept himself fully occupied with farming matters. Here, time hung heavily on his hands. He slept a great deal to defend himself against boredom. Aline made no attempt to hide her delight at being so close to Paris and the center of events. If it were not for her, he probably would have retreated almost immediately from these surroundings. They suited his habits very poorly. Perhaps he would get used to this luxurious inactivity later on and resign himself to it. For now, its novelty irritated him. It was a peevish and rather sleepy Monsieur de Circadia who received André-Louis early that Sunday afternoon. André-Louis entered unannounced, just as he had always done at Gavrilac. This was because Benoit, Monsieur de Circadia's old steward, had accompanied his master on this comfortable adventure. He was installed as the head butler at Meudon. Monsieur Etienne's remaining servants, who were quite arrogant, found this endlessly amusing, though they tried to hide their laughter. Benoit welcomed André-Louis with incoherent delight. He almost jumped around him like a faithful dog while leading him to the drawing room. He brought him to the Lord of Gavrilac. Benoit was convinced that the master would be thrilled to see André-Louis again.
My lord! My lord!
He cried in a trembling voice. He entered a step or two ahead of the visitor.
It is André. It is André, your godson. He comes to kiss your hand. He is here, and he looks so fine that you would hardly know him. Here he is, my lord. Does he not look wonderful?
The old servant rubbed his hands together. He was certain he was bringing great joy to his master. André-Louis crossed the threshold of that large room. The carpet was soft underfoot, and the room was dazzling to the eye. It was incredibly tall. Fluted pillars with gold tops supported its decorated ceiling. The entry door and the garden windows were enormous. They reached almost the full height of the room itself. The room was overwhelmingly covered in gold. The furniture had abundant brass decorations. This was typical of the homes belonging to people of birth and wealth. People used gold for decoration more in this age than ever before, even though coined gold was almost impossible to find. Paper money had been created to supply the lack of coins. André-Louis often said that the kingdom's finances might improve if these people put the paper on their walls and the gold in their pockets. The lord had dressed up and added ruffles to match his surroundings. He stood up, startled by Benoit's enthusiastic entrance. Benoit had been almost as lonely as his master since they arrived at Meudon.
What is it?
His pale, short-sighted eyes squinted at the visitor.
André,
he said. His voice was caught between surprise and sternness, and his large pink face grew darker. Benoit turned his back to his master. He deliberately winked and smiled at André-Louis to encourage him. He wanted him to ignore any apparent hostility from his godfather. After doing this, the smart old man quietly slipped away.
What do you want here?
Growled Monsieur de Circadia.
I only want to kiss your hand, just as Benoit told you, Monsieur my godfather,
said André-Louis respectfully. He bowed his smooth black head.
You managed without kissing it for 2 years. Please do not reproach me with my misfortune, monsieur.
The little man stood very stiff and straight. He threw his disproportionately large head back. His pale, prominent eyes looked very stern.
Did you think disappearing in that heartless manner would make your outrageous offense any better? Did you think leaving us without knowing whether you were alive or dead was acceptable? At first, it was dangerous to reveal my location. My life was in danger. Then, for a time, I was in need and almost destitute. My pride forbade me to ask you for help. I knew what I had done and how you must view it. Later. Destitute?
The lord interrupted. His lip trembled for a moment. Then he steadied himself, and his frown deepened. He looked closely at his changed, elegant godson. He noticed the quiet richness of his clothes. He saw the paste buckles and red heels on his shoes. He looked at the sword with its mother-of-pearl and silver handle. He observed the carefully styled hair that he used to see hanging in messy strands around his face.
At least you do not look destitute now.
He sneered.
I am not. I have prospered since then. In that way, monsieur, I am different from the ordinary prodigal son who only returns when he needs help. I return solely because I love you, monsieur. I have come to tell you so. I came at the very first moment after hearing you were here.
He stepped forward.
Monsieur, my godfather,
he said, and he held out his hand. But Monsieur de Kercadia remained stiff. He wrapped himself in his cold dignity and resentment.
Whatever troubles you may have suffered, or think you have suffered, are far less than your disgraceful conduct deserved. I see that they have not reduced your arrogance at all. You think you can just come here and say, Monsieur my godfather, and everything will be forgiven and forgotten. That is your mistake. You have committed too great a wrong. You have offended against everything I believe in. You have offended me personally by betraying my trust in you. You are one of those unspeakable scoundrels who are responsible for this revolution. Alas, monsieur, I see that you share the common delusion. These unspeakable scoundrels only demanded a constitution. The throne had promised them one. They could not know that the promise was insincere. They could not know that the privileged classes would block its fulfillment. The nobles and the bishops are the men who started this revolution, monsieur. You dare stand there and tell me such terrible lies, especially at a time like this. You dare to say that the nobles made the revolution. Scores of them have followed the example of the Duc d'Aiguillon. They have thrown their privileges and even their title deeds into the lap of the people. Or perhaps you deny it. Oh no, they wantonly set fire to their own house. Now they are trying to put it out by throwing water on it. When they fail, they blame the flames entirely. I see that you came here to talk politics. Not at all. I came to explain myself, if possible. To understand is always to forgive. That is a great saying of Montaigne's. If I could make you understand. You cannot. You will never make me understand how you made yourself so horribly famous in Brittany. Ah, not horribly, monsieur. Certainly horribly, among the people who matter. They even say you were omnes omnibus. I cannot and will not believe that. Yet it is true.
Monsieur de Kercadia choked.
And you confess it? You dare to confess it? A man should dare to confess what he dares to do, unless he is a coward. Oh, and you were certainly very brave. You ran away every time after causing trouble. You became an actor to hide yourself. You caused more trouble as an actor. You provoked a riot in Nantes. Then you ran away again to become God knows what. You look wealthy, so it must be something dishonest. My God, man, I have hoped for the past 2 years that you were dead. It deeply disappoints me that you are not.
He clapped his hands together and raised his sharp voice to call out.
Benoit.
He walked away toward the fireplace. His face was bright red. He shook with the anger he had worked up.
I might have forgiven you if you were dead. I could forgive someone who had paid for his evil and his foolishness. I can never forgive you while you live. You have gone too far. Only God knows where it will end. Benoit, show him the door. Take Monsieur André-Louis Moreau to the door.
His tone showed a final, absolute decision. André-Louis heard that dismissal. He was pale and controlled, but a strange pain gripped his heart. He saw Benoit's white, scared face. The old man half raised his shaking hands, as if he wanted to argue with his master. Then another voice, a crisp, youthful voice, cut in.
Uncle!
It cried. The pitch held a world of anger and surprise. Then it said,
André.
This time, a note of near gladness and certain welcome mixed with the remaining surprise. They both turned. Half the room separated them at that moment. They saw Aline standing in one of the long, open windows. She had stopped just as she was entering from the garden. She wore a milkmaid bonnet in the latest fashion. It did not have any of the tricolor decorations that were so common on them now. The thin lips of André's wide mouth twisted into a strange smile. The memory of their last parting flashed into his mind. He saw himself again, standing on the pavement of Nantes, burning with anger. He watched her carriage as it drove away down the Avenue de Guygan. She was coming toward him now with her hands reached out. Her cheeks were flushed, and a welcoming smile was on her lips. He bowed low and kissed her hand in silence. Then, with a look and a gesture, she sent Benoit away. In her commanding way, she took on the role of André's defender against the harsh dismissal she had overheard.
Uncle,
She said. She left André and walked over to Monsieur de Kercadia.
you make me ashamed of you. You are letting a feeling of grumpiness overwhelm all your affection for André. I have no affection for him. I did once. He chose to destroy it. He can go to the devil. Please note that I do not allow you to interfere. But if he confesses that he has done wrong, he confesses nothing of the sort. He comes here to argue with me about these infernal rights of man. He declares himself unrepentant. He proudly announces that he was the scoundrel who hid under the name Omnes Omnibus, just as everyone in Brittany says. Is that something to excuse?
She turned to look at André across the wide space that separated them now.
But is this really true? Do you not repent, André, now that you see all the harm that has happened?
It was a clear invitation to him. She was pleading with him to say that he repented so he could make peace with his godfather. For a moment, it almost swayed him. Then, he decided that such a trick was unworthy. He answered truthfully, even though the pain he felt rang in his voice.
Confessing repentance would mean confessing to a monstrous crime.
He said slowly, "Do you not see that? Oh, monsieur, have patience with me. Let me explain myself a little. You say that I am partly responsible for some of what has happened. People say my speeches to the crowd at Rennes, and twice afterward at Nantes, played a role in the events that followed there. That may be true. I could not absolutely deny it. Revolution followed, and bloodshed occurred. More may still come. To repent means recognizing that I have done wrong. How can I say that I have done wrong? How can I take a share of the responsibility for all that blood on my soul? I will be completely honest with you to show you how far I am from repentance. I actually acted against all my own beliefs at the time. I acted because there was no justice in France to punish the murderer of Philippe de Vilmorin. I acted in the only way I thought could make the evil turn back on the person who did it, on those who had the power but lacked the courage to punish him. Since then, I have realized that I was wrong. Philippe de Vilmorin and the people who agreed with him were right all along.
You must realize, monsieur, that I am deeply thankful to find I have done nothing that requires repentance. On the contrary, France will soon receive the priceless gift of a constitution. When that happens, I can take pride in having helped create the conditions that made it possible.
There was a pause. Monsieur de Kercadia's face turned from pink to purple.
Have you completely finished?
He asked harshly.
If you have understood me, monsieur. Oh, I have understood you. I ask that you leave.
André-Louis shrugged his shoulders and lowered his head. He had come there so happily, full of longing, only to receive a final rejection. He looked at Aline. Her face was pale and troubled. However, her quick mind could not find a way to help him. His extreme honesty had ruined his chances.
Very well, monsieur. Yet I ask you to remember this after I am gone. I did not come to you asking for help. Need did not drive me to you. I am not a returning prodigal son, as I said. I need nothing and ask for nothing. I am the master of my own fate. I came to you driven only by affection. The love and gratitude I hold for you, and will always hold for you, urged me to come. Ah, yes,
Cried Aline. She turned to her uncle now. She thought this was finally a point in André's favor.
that is true. Surely that...
He hissed at her to be quiet, completely frustrated. He could not form the words.
Perhaps that will help you think of me more kindly in the future, monsieur. I see no reason to think of you at all, sir. Again, I ask that you leave.
André-Louis looked at Aline for a moment, as if he was still hesitating. She answered him with a glance at her furious uncle. She gave a faint shrug and lifted her eyebrows. Her face showed pure dejection. It was as if she were saying,
"You see his mood. There is nothing we can do."
He bowed with the unique grace he had learned in the fencing room. Then he walked out the door.
"Oh, it is cruel,"
cried Aline. Her voice was choked, and her hands were clenched. She jumped toward the window.
"Aline,
Her uncle's voice stopped her.
where are you going?" "But we do not know where to find him." "Who wants to find the scoundrel?" "We may never see him again." "That is exactly what I passionately want."
Aline said,
"Alf,"
and went out through the window. He called after her, forcefully ordering her to come back. But Aline, being a dutiful child, closed her ears so she would not have to disobey him. She ran quickly across the lawn to the tree-lined driveway to catch the departing André-Louis. He came out looking gloomy. She stepped from the trees bordering the path right in front of him.
"Aline,"
He cried, almost with joy.
"I did not want you to leave like this. I could not let you."
She explained.
"I know him better than you do. I know his big, soft heart will soon melt. He will be full of regret. He will want to send for you, and he will not know where to send a message." "Do you really think so?" "Oh, I know it. You arrived at a bad time. The poor man is grumpy and irritable since he came here. All this soft luxury is strange to him. He misses his beloved Gavrilac, his hunting, and his farming. The truth is, in his mind, he blames you heavily for what has happened. He blames you for the necessity, or at least the wisdom, of moving here. You must know that Brittany was becoming too dangerous. The chateau of La Tour d'Azur, among others, was burned to the ground a few months ago. Given a new spark of excitement, Gavrilac could be next at any moment. He blames you and your friends for this and for his current discomfort. But he will change his mind soon. He will be sorry he sent you away like this. I know he loves you, André, despite everything. I will reason with him when the right time comes, and then we will need to know where to find you." At number 13, Rue du Hazard. The number is unlucky, and the street's name means chance. Therefore, both are appropriate and easy to remember.
She nodded.
"I will walk with you to the gates."
They walked side by side down the long avenue at a relaxed pace. The June sunshine filtered through the shadows of the trees along the way.
"You look well, André. Do you know you have changed a great deal? I am glad you have prospered."
Then, she abruptly changed the subject before he had time to answer. She brought up the matter she cared about most.
"I have wanted to see you so much all these months, André. You were the only one who could help me. You were the only one who could tell me the truth. I was angry with you for never writing to tell me where you were. Of course, you encouraged me to do exactly that the last time we met in Nantes. What? Are you still resentful?" "I am never resentful. You should know that."
He was expressing one of his personal vanities. He loved to think of himself as a stoic.
"But I still carry the scar of a wound. It would heal better if you offered the comfort of taking back your words." "Why, then, I take them back, André. And now tell me." "Yes, that is a self-serving apology,"
He said.
"You give me something only so you can get something."
He laughed quite pleasantly.
Well, well, command me. Tell me, André."
She paused, as if she were having some difficulty. Then she continued, keeping her eyes on the ground.
"Tell me the truth about what happened at the Feda."
The request brought a frown to his face. He instantly suspected why she was asking. He gave her his version of the event quite simply and briefly. She listened very carefully. When he finished, she sighed. Her face looked very thoughtful.
"That is very similar to what I was told,"
she said.
"But they added that Monsieur de La Tour d'Azur went to the theater specifically to break things off completely with La Binet. Do you know if that was true?" "I do not. I do not know any reason why it should be true either. La Binet gave him the kind of entertainment that he and men like him are always looking for. Oh, there was a reason.
She interrupted him.
I was the reason. I spoke to Madame de Sautron. I told her I would not continue to see someone who came to me dirted in that way.
She clearly found it hard to speak about this. Her face turned red, and she looked slightly away as he watched her.
If you had listened to me,
He began, but she interrupted him again.
Monsieur de Sautron passed my decision on to him. Later, he told me the Marquis was a man in despair. He said he was repentant and ready to offer any proof of his sincerity and devotion to me. He told me that Monsieur de la Tour d'Azyr swore to him that he would end the affair. He swore he would never see La Binet again. Then, the very next day, I heard he almost lost his life in a riot at the theater. He had gone straight from his meeting with Monsieur de Sautron, straight from his promises to be good, right back to La Binet. I was furious. I made my final decision. I stated clearly that I would not see Monsieur de la Tour d'Azyr again under any circumstances. And then they pushed this excuse on me. I refused to believe it for a long time. So you believe it now?
Said André quickly.
Why? I did not say I believe it now, but I cannot disbelieve it either. Since we moved to Meudon, Monsieur de la Tour d'Azyr has visited here. He swore to me himself that it was the truth. Oh, if Monsieur de la Tour d'Azyr has sworn it.
André-Louis laughed with a bitter, sarcastic tone.
Have you ever known him to lie?
She asked sharply. That stopped him.
Monsieur de la Tour d'Azyr is, after all, a man of honor. Men of honor never lie. Have you ever known him to do so? Is there a reason for you to sneer like that? No.
He confessed. Basic fairness demanded he admit his enemy possessed at least that virtue.
It is true, I have not known him to lie. Men of his kind are too arrogant and too confident to need lies. But I have known him to do things just as vile. Nothing is as vile.
She interrupted. She spoke according to the rules she had learned growing up.
There is no hope only for liars, who are close cousins to thieves. True loss of honor only happens when someone tells a lie. I think you are defending that monster,
He said coldly.
I just want to be fair. Fairness might look very different to you when you finally decide to become the Marquise de la Tour d'Azyr.
He spoke bitterly.
I do not think I will ever make that decision. But you are still not sure even after everything. Can anyone ever be sure of anything in this world? Yes, one can be sure of being foolish.
She either did not hear him or chose to ignore him.
You do not know for a fact that it was not as Monsieur de la Tour d'Azyr claims? You do not know why he went to the Feda that night? I do not.
He admitted.
It is possible, of course. But does it matter? It might matter. Tell me what happened to La Binet in the end. I do not know. You do not know?
She turned to look at him carefully.
And you can say that with such indifference. I thought you loved her, André. I did for a short time. I was wrong. I needed a La Tour d'Azyr to show me the truth. These gentlemen have their uses. They help stupid fellows like me see important facts. In my case, I was lucky that I learned the truth before marriage. I can now look back on the event calmly. I am thankful I narrowly escaped the results of what was just a trick of the senses. People often confuse that with love. As you can see, the experience taught me a lot.
She looked at him with open surprise.
Do you know, André, I sometimes think you have no heart. That is probably because I sometimes show intelligence. And what about you, Aline? What has your attitude been from the start regarding Monsieur de la Tour d'Azyr? Does that show heart? If I told you what it really shows, we would just end up fighting again. God knows I cannot afford to fight with you now. I will take another way. What do you mean? Nothing for now. You are not in any danger of marrying that animal. And what if I were? In that case, my affection for you would help me find a way to stop it. Unless
He paused.
Unless?
She demanded. She stood as tall as her short height allowed. She looked at him with commanding eyes.
Unless you could also tell me that you loved him.
He said simply. Her attitude softened suddenly and strangely at those words. Then he shook his head and added,
But of course that is impossible. Why?
She asked him, her voice quite gentle now.
Because you are exactly who you are. Aline, you are completely good, pure, and adorable. Angels do not mate with devils. You might become his wife, but you could never be his true mate. Aline, never.
They had reached the iron gates at the end of the driveway. Through them, they saw the waiting yellow carriage that had brought André-Louis. They heard the creak of other wheels and the beat of other hooves nearby. Another vehicle came into view and stopped next to the yellow carriage. It was a beautiful carriage with polished mahogany panels. Gold and blue family crests flashed brightly on it in the sunlight. A footman jumped down to open the gates wide. At that moment, the lady sitting in the carriage saw Aline. She waved to her and gave an order.